Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for being here as always, and let's talk about Solo, a Star Wars story. As a quick note, this is going to be a spoiler-filled review. I will be talking about the themes and the characters and what I thought about them and all this kind of stuff. So, if you haven't seen the movie, maybe click away. I will leave a thingamajig up in one of these two corners to the spoiler-free instant hot take reaction thing that I recorded in my car. That's spoiler-free, so go check that out if you have not seen this movie yet. Now, with that long rambly bit out of the way, how good is Solo, a Star Wars story? I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a dumb, fun Star Wars movie. Let's get the negatives out of the way first, and then I'll just go on about my crazy, fanboyish, unnecessary excitement about this movie. There are a couple of negatives about this film. Number one is the character of Val, at least to me, feels kind of pointless, if I'm being blunt. She doesn't really do anything, and she basically dies almost a few, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 minutes after she's introduced as an actual character in the movie. And she doesn't really die for any real good reason. Like, she doesn't sacrifice herself to save anybody. She sacrifices herself because, well, reasons. Like, I didn't see why she needed to die in the first place. If she just wanted to stay alive and say, screw the job, she would have been fine, I guess. I mean, maybe she was sacrificing herself because if then the job went well, then Beckett would be okay. Maybe. But I don't know. Like, it didn't, to be totally blunt, it felt like Lucasfilm was meeting a quota and going, yep, well, we've got our woman of color character. Okay, now she's out of the way. Like, it didn't feel like she even needed to exist in the first place because she doesn't even pull off the, love interest in the refrigerator trope. You know, dead female character, dead love interest of the male character makes it easy for the male character to be, you know, sad or whatever. But that's not the case because Beckett's he doesn't feel affected by Val's death. So again, it feels pointless to me to even have her in the movie or even have that character in the movie. But, that's just me. The other big downside with this movie is the fact that it's just a dumb, fun Star Wars movie. I've watched a couple of critical reviews about it just because I wanted to get other people's opinions so that then my opinions didn't change after talking and listening to other people before I got my opinions out to you guys. I watched Chris Stuckman's review. He gave it a C out of, normal letter grading. And Mr. Sunday Movies rated it a little bit lower. He feels that it's the least inspired. At least those are his words in his review of the new Star Wars movies. And both of them had kind of the same sentiments, that it's paint by numbers. It's just, it's a safe movie. And even though that I really enjoyed this movie, I totally agree with them. It's a dumb, fun Star Wars movie, and it doesn't have any big surprises. It doesn't have any huge character development or character moments, with the exception of maybe L3. And Kira probably has a couple of good character moments where you're kind of always trying to figure out, at least I was always trying to figure out where she was going to land. Is she going to land on her side? Is she going to land on Han's side? Is she going to land on Dryden Voss's side? Like, I was always kind of guessing about that. But other than that, Han Solo, he grows as a character, sure. I think more so than I think some of the more critical people are feeling. I think that Han Solo does evolve a tiny bit over the course of this movie. He goes from cocky, super sure of himself street rat to still cocky, but more guarded street rat, basically. Or rather, from street rat to smuggler to actual, full-blown criminal. Lando doesn't have really any super big developments in this movie. Beckett doesn't really change at all from the beginning of the movie all the way to the end. Chewbacca, while I love Chewbacca in this movie, he doesn't really have any big changes. There isn't any big themes, and that is a problem. This does feel like your typical Marvel movie. Honestly, it feels like Iron Man or Spider-Man Homecoming or whatever. It's just a fun summer blockbustery movie that you just go and you sit down in the theater and go, okay, I'm going to watch the Falcon go whoosh, or I'm going to watch Spider-Man swing around New York City, or whatever. And I think that's what we needed as a fandom right now, after TLJ being a complete and utter crap storm for the fandom. We needed a super safe, fun movie. But as a piece of art, it does suffer for that. It is very much a basic. I think basic is probably the best term here. It's a basic Star Wars movie. It is everything that you would think would be in just fun Star Wars land. That's exactly what this movie is. I'm okay with that. I had fun getting into that. With that said, I am somewhat worried because while I don't think that the release, the quantity of Star Wars being made is going to cause Star Wars to become less special. But if they keep up this trend where they're playing it super safe and trying to play towards the OT and trying to play towards really safe things, I've said in a previous video, what's the matter with Star Wars becoming Marvel? Now that it's kind of happened a little bit with Solo, I was wrong to say that. I don't want Star Wars to become Marvel. I want Star Wars to still have that heart, that Star Wars heart that, I didn't get the goosebumps. I didn't get that weird feeling in your chest where you're like, that you might have gotten when, say, the Rebellion fleet drops out of hyperspace in Rogue One, or the moment when Luke walked out of the base on Crate, or let's go all the way back to the original trilogy, the moment when the TIE fighters rolled in across their axis to try and draw their fire at the beginning of the Battle of Yavin in A New Hope. I never got that in this movie. And I don't want to not have that. If that makes sense. So, with that all being said, I know I just rambled on about all the negatives for Lord knows how long. There's a lot to love about this movie, though. There's a lot to love about this movie. Alden Ehrenreich as Han. Fan-frickin-tastic. That is Han Solo. He is just as much Han Solo as Harrison Ford is now, at least in my eyes. I could understand where people might not feel that way, but he made the character his own. I felt like I was always watching Han Solo doing Han Solo-y things. Obviously, Donald Glover's Lando, it's amazing because it's Donald Glover, and the man can't mess up anything, apparently. He can do everything completely perfectly. It's frustrating how talented that man is. Phoebe Waller-Bridge as L3 was fantastic. I was kind of turned off by L3. Not turned off, but I wasn't excited about her as a character until I actually just recorded a episode of the Cabal podcast, which you guys can find links to down below for the feed for that. But anyways, self-plug out of the way there. When I recorded a bit of the Cabal podcast with one of my co-hosts on that podcast, Katie, who was really moved by L3. And originally L3 was for me. She felt gimmicky to me almost. She felt like, oh, this is the droid, and here's her gimmick, which is droid rights. Okay, whatever. Like, it wasn't really super inspiring for me. But now that Katie's given me a new perspective, where, now again, this is a spoilers video. Now that L3 dies, but then she becomes part of the Falcon. Now she's become that, like, L3 has evolved into the character of the Millennium Falcon. I've always been a big proponent that the Falcon is a character in the OT. the Falcon is a character in the sequel trilogy. The Falcon, we use the gendered pronoun she for the Falcon all the time, both in movie universe and in our fandom. The Millennium Falcon, she is a beautiful ship. And now that L3 is kind of tied into that identity, it means a lot to me. Katie made the point that, now every time that she sees the Falcon diving in to save the rebellion, she's going to hear Phoebe Waller-Bridge's performance going, "Rebellion!" during the riot on Kessel, or during the breakout on Kessel. And you know what? That's awesome. Like, that's one of the few seriously emotionally hard-hitting moments that I hope it will hit me. It'll land with me come tomorrow once I go and see it again. Beckett's Woody Harrelson in space. He's scumbag Woody Harrelson character. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Woody Harrelson and he does a great job, but it's Beckett. He's the experienced smuggler guy who Han Solo just kind of runs across. Chewbacca is fan-frickin-tastic. I love Chewbacca in this. I can never pronounce his name correctly. What is it? Jonas Stamos? I always read it, but I never hear it. Whatever. I'm not going to look it up. But, the guy that's now doing Chewbacca, because of Peter Mayhew's advanced age and deteriorating health, he's fantastic. He is Chewbacca just as much as anybody else. He's got the mannerisms down, the body language, which is really how we understand Chewbacca in addition to Han Solo translating for us. He does an incredible job with Chewbacca. I was cheering Chewbacca on the entire bloody movie. I don't think I'm missing any other... No, I am missing one other character before I get to the character that I really want to talk about, and that is Dryden Voss. Dryden Voss is a really fun character, but he is kind of... He feels like a Marvel villain to me in this movie. And, again, it's okay. But I want to have back my Star Wars-y heart, the Star Wars heart and soul that, gives me the goose pimples and the whatever. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. He does an admirable job of playing this kind of unhinged, weird crime boss guy, but he's very much, to me, he's a Marvel villain. And again, that kind of feeds back to that negative that I was talking about earlier, where I don't really want Star Wars to become Marvel. I'm okay with one or two of the new movies being Marvelized-ish, where it's just kind of not substanceless, but something that doesn't have that spark that makes Star Wars special. I'm okay with a couple of them not being like that, but he's Paul Bettany's character, Dryden Voss, kind of comes off to me as another sign of Solo not quite having that emotional oomph that Star Wars seems to have. It doesn't tap into that primal, yes, rebellion, or yes, that looks amazing, or yes, the whole interconnectivity of the Force and the fact that, the plastic that makes up this Jedi symbol thingy that just kicked up a bunch of cat hair because Navi's annoying. But the plastic that makes up this Jedi symbol thing, it was forged inside of the same heart of the same star, so the Force is real in real life, and, it doesn't have any of that mind-bendy, dramatic, emotional hit. And again, back to what I was talking about with Paul Bettany's character, he does an admirable job, but he's also that character is also evidence to my thoughts about about Solo being a little bit too Marvelized for me. Okay, now we can get on to the character that I really want to talk about, Kira. Kira was freaking amazing in this movie, man. With that being said, I feel like Emilia Clarke has been kind of... how do I put this? I feel like Emilia Clarke hasn't been able to give us everything that she needs. Or everything that she can give us as an actress, or as an artist, as an acteur. Terminator Genisys was whatever Terminator Genisys was. I think that she did what she could with the script and the director that she had. And as for Daenerys, I love Daenerys. I love Daenerys as a character in Game of Thrones. I'm not even a huge Game of Thrones fan, and I love Daenerys. But she's very much a two-dimensional character to me. Her one character trait, her singular character trait in Game of Thrones is Conqueror. And this is also another idea stolen from Katie. Thank you so much, Katie. But, she's very much a two-dimensional character in that she has a singular thing. She has a singular character motivation, a character trait, and that is Conqueror. That's what she does. She conquers. And, she conquers Khal Drogo, and then she continues to conquer her way up and up and up and up until where we see her now at the end of season 7. And that's very two-dimensional for me. She doesn't really grow too much. She just keeps growing into bigger and bigger shoes, and she just continues to conquer her way up and up and up and up the social ladder in the Game of Thrones universe. But in this movie, Emilia Clarke does some of the most subtle, beautiful acting I have ever seen in Star Wars. Like, seriously, at least for me, she did a fantastic job, to me at least. She plays this wonderfully subtle performance that just, the fact that I didn't know where Kira was going to land until by the time the credits rolled. Like, I didn't know if Kira landed where she landed until the credits started rolling. That's awesome. The fact that we know Kira from pretty much first shot of this movie all the way to the last 5 minutes of the movie. Yeah, I didn't know where she was going to land, and I didn't quite know what her deal was and what were her motivations, and is she going to fall on her side or is she going to fall on Paul Bettany's character's side, because I'm terrible with character names. Dryden Voss's side. Is she going to fall on Han's side? Is she going to fall on Beckett's side? Where is she going to kind of land in this whole topsy-turvy weirdness? And I didn't know until the credits rolled. And that's awesome. That was perfectly executed, at least to me. I think that she was directed incredibly well, and and Emilia Clarke performed the character incredibly well. So good. Now, on to fun little tiny bits that I just really enjoyed. I really liked the Kessel Run. I liked that they, as much as I said that they didn't take too many risks with this, there are certain goofy moments where it's like, do you really, that's ballsy to do. And for me, I had this conversation with Katie again. Check out that episode of the Star Cabal that'll be posted up sooner rather than later. That the prequels added in a silliness. People, fans of the original trilogy, felt that the prequels were a little bit too silly and immature, and Jar Jar is a clown, and da-da-da. And you know what? That's totally fair opinion. But, I saw Phantom Menace when I was 8 years old. And I loved it. And that is my Star Wars to me. The original trilogy and stuff, that's my dad's Star Wars. That's my uncle's Star Wars. That's my mom's Star Wars. That's the Star Wars that I've been borrowing from them. Whereas the prequel trilogy is my Star Wars. So to me, silly goofiness is in Star Wars' DNA for me. And there are a couple, at least, very goofy, weird, like, really? That's really, really, like, ballsy to do. And that is having Han, speak, not understand, speak Shuriwuk to Chewbacca. Like, he just got Alden Ehrenreich hanging upside down going, it's so ridiculous and so weird, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. But I do know that I love it. So I do know how I feel about it. I just don't want to admit it because social stigmatization, but I love it. I love how goofy and stupid that was. It makes my heart sing. Another really funny moment was, the fact that, stupid mosquito. Not the mosquito. another really funny moment was, when we got a Data from Star Trek Generations moment from Lando, where, he's like, oh shit, but it cuts off like right before he finishes that T sound. Again, it's just like, that's ballsy to do, but it adds in a silly goofiness and a kind of, I don't know, infantileness, if that's a word. An infantile attitude or a naive attitude or something like that. Or just, it kind of dives, like sometimes, like this movie follows a very straight and narrow path. Except for every once in a while, it'll just for a few seconds just kind of veer off hard, hard to the left or hard to the right into the woods. And then it'll get back on course to straight and narrow, safe Star Wars movie. And I do appreciate those 3 or 4 hard jaunts. So overall, I've lived with this movie for a couple of hours, so I'm not going to put it in my ranking of Star Wars movies. But with that being said, right now it's probably middle of the pack-ish, maybe, for me. It's a dumb, fun Star Wars movie. It's even, at least to me, more rewatchable than The Last Jedi, my favorite Star Wars movie, my personal favorite Star Wars movie, because it doesn't have that hard-hitting emotional impact. I can just throw this, I'll just be able to throw Solo on while I'm, cleaning the living room or doing some laundry or something, and just listen to it in the background without needing to feel like I need to be paying attention to this specific scene because it's such an intense scene in between this character and that character. I can just be like, yeah, okay, they're doing the train heist bit, And there is something to be said for that. There is a good quality in that. At least to me, I think that there is. So at the end of the day, it's a good movie. It's a fun movie. Does it make me kind of concerned with the future and the way that Lucasfilm goes with Star Wars, the way Disney decides to go with Star Wars? Yeah. I am a little bit worried. I am a little bit worried that it's a little bit too safe. Remember, I just said, The Last Jedi is one of my favorite Star Wars movies. And I liked The Last Jedi so much because it didn't play it safe. It went way off course from where I was expecting it to be. But it still had, at least to me, that Star Wars heart and soul. Whereas this movie didn't necessarily have either that heart and soul that I wanted, that at least I found in The Last Jedi. And it also didn't take any risks to get there. It kind of just... They made a movie. They made a movie to make some money. And because Lawrence Kasdan has had the script bouncing around his head for a few years. That's why this movie was made. And... I don't know. It does make me worried with the way that Lucasfilm decides to keep going with Star Wars in general. I'm hoping that whatever Rian Johnson comes up with, his trilogy, whatever Dan and Dave do, whatever Favreau does, I'm hoping that it doesn't feel like it's missing that heart and soul of Star Wars, those goose pimple moments. Like the Holden maneuver, or like the X-Wings rolling in on the first Death Star, or the Duel of the Fates, or whatever your big wow, I know I love Star Wars moment is. This movie doesn't really have that. At least to me. So, I don't know. I feel like I'm ending more down than I am on the film, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm still working through it. I've only lived with it for a couple of hours. I will probably scratch that. I will be doing a rambling back episode about this. So whatever comments that you'd like me and my guest, this month, or this rambling back episode, I suppose, to discuss, leave those comments down below so that then we can discuss the movie. We're probably going to be recording it either Saturday or Sunday. I'm recording this, late night on Thursday, and, this will be going up Friday, so you basically have like 24-ish hours to get your comments in. So be sure to get those comments down below so that then we can talk about them and use them as discussion points for that rambling back episode. And yeah, like I said, I enjoyed this movie. I really did like this movie, but it makes me concerned with where Lucasfilm keeps going, or where Lucasfilm decides to keep going. We'll see. But anyways, I'm going to get out of here, guys, and get this video edited edited and uploaded to you guys for in the morning. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like on it. Like I said, leave your comments down below for Rambling Back. That'll be published sometime early next week. And if you're new here and you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit subscribe for more videos like this one. Thank you guys as always. And as always, may the force be with you. Take care.